Professional sports leagues are reacting to Monday's Supreme Court ruling allowing states to individually legalize sports betting. The NCAA and the four major professional sports leagues had opposed the New Jersey law that led to the Supreme Court's ruling. Now, some of them are indicating they will consider working with states that decide to legalize sports gambling. Joining me now is Zagger. He's an attorney and senior reporter at Law 360. Welcome, Zach.
Hi, thank you for having me.
So first, let's look at this in context here. What led up to this decision?
Well, the case started with New Jersey. They wanted to open up their sports betting in their state, and they actually passed a law in 2011 to legalize and regulate sports betting. However, that was shot down in the courts after the sports leagues and the NCAA challenged it under this federal law known as the Professional and Amateur Sports Protection Act. That was, like I said, shut down in the court. So then they went around and they repealed sports betting prohibitions in their state, particularly pertaining to the racetracks and casinos in the state. And so this opened up sports betting to those things, and it ended up in another federal court challenge that culminated in yesterday's opinion.
So let's talk more about that law. It's called the Professional and Amateur Sports Protection Act, and the court's decision effectively overturned that law. Explain to us, first of all, what that was and why it was ultimately overturned.
Yes, the law blocks states from being able to legalize sports betting. It said that they cannot authorize it. And so the Supreme Court considered it, New Jersey argued that that law was unconstitutional under the 10th Amendment's anti-commandeering principle. And so that was basically, the decision was a balance between federal and state power. And the court said that that unconstitutionally restricted what states could and could not do. And so they ended up striking down the entire law.
And the ruling, though, as I understand it, correct me if I'm wrong, is not actually legalizing sports gambling. It just allows states to individually legalize it. So how long do you think it is before we see sanctioned sports betting in states?
Well, as many as 32 states are already considering bills to legalize sports betting. However, some are much farther ahead than others. New Jersey, of course, is the farthest one. And Monmouth Park has said that they may offer sports betting by the end of this month in time for the NBA Finals. Some other states like Pennsylvania, West Virginia, and Mississippi have also passed bills that were passed in anticipation of the Supreme Court's ruling, and so they could move forward and have sports betting potentially by the start of football season. Other states have a little bit more to go, but in the next 2 to 3 years, I imagine we could see sports betting legalized in a number of different states, so long as Congress decides not to take some kind of action.
Well, that's going to be my question. Are there legal barriers, and if so, what are they?
Yeah. Well, there's some question that the Wire Act may still come into play here, so whether or not you can place bets that cross state lines, that's going to be something that needs to be figured out. Also, the NFL has indicated that they want a federal approach, and there's already, Orrin Hatch has already said that he's laying the groundwork for some federal options. So Congress may try to take another stab at this, or at least apply some overarching regulations that states are going to have to comply with.
You've had this mixed reaction in the professional sports community. I want to ask you about the MLB and the NBA said they'd be willing to work with states that legalized gambling. On the other hand, you had the NFL and the NCAA speaking out against this ruling. What are the pros and cons here for these sports leagues? What are their main concerns?
Well, the main concern for the sports leagues is integrity. They don't want there to be doubt about the results of their events, and they want to protect their sports, which is reasonable. It's their business. The NCAA especially is concerned because college athletes are amateurs and they may be more susceptible to corruption. And so that's why the NCAA has been against it the whole time. They've remained against it. Major League Baseball and the National Basketball Association have come around on this, and they have seen it as if this is something that's going to happen, they want to have a say in how it looks and how what the state sports betting bills look like.
I mean, do you think we could see some kind of government regulation here on sports betting in the future?
Most definitely. I think on a federal level, there may be some efforts to restrict or regulate advertising, some other measures to protect minors. But this is mostly going to be a state-by-state effort, and these conversations are going to be going on in state legislatures across the country.
All right, a new frontier. Zach Zagger, thanks very much, Zach.
Thank you very much for having me.